Yeah.
Hey everybody, it is TorontoUnicorn here with special guest Amelia. Say hello.
Hi.
And we're here to give you a story time about Hot Wife and Cuckold theme event at Oasis Aqua Lounge this past Wednesday. We went with ours, so it was us three single ladies, and we were gonna just have a social night. It was rainy that day. It was like pouring rain earlier, and we just thought, uh-oh, it might not be the greatest turnout. And so it wasn't super busy when we went, but the weather did cooperate. So we did see more people come out than I thought originally, but it was more of an intimate vibe. There was like so few people in the pool that if you didn't include them in a conversation, it might have felt rude, right? Would you agree?
Totally.
Yeah, and like at one point, who all of us were in a circle talking in the pool, and then whenever somebody new would come in, people were so quick to invite them, because think about how intimidating that must look like. If you come in as a single man, for example, and there's a bunch of people talking in a circle, what do you do? Do you go up to the circle? Do you sit on your own, right? So what I liked is that the game of intrusive questions, which is what we all played together when we opened our metaphorical circle jerk of intimacy. And basically we got to know people in the pool, right? So we went around in a circle and we talked about whether we were bi or straight and like what we wanted to order off the sexual menu, meaning like if we could like do anything, what would we want to do? Anyways, what did you answer when I said, what if you could order something off the sexual menu, what would you want to do today?
For the longest time, I've been saying face sitting,
Mhm.
but we did a podcast and we talked about our dark fantasies. And I was like, you know what? If I don't put it out there in the world, I don't know if this is going to happen. And honestly, when we first got there, the pool was empty. The three of us were like the first ladies in there. And then some men joined. And then there's this one lovely gentleman that came after, where, like you said, that, where it's kind of like, okay, he sees a bunch of people in the pool talking. And then, it's kind of intimidating. So then we invited him in the circle, asked him questions, tell him what was happening. And then I said, I can't wait to peg a man.
Mhm.
And like I was just saying it because there was a handful of people, who knows what's happening, and it's still in my head because I was like, you know what, this is kind of something I really want to do. And then it's just funny, like,
Yeah.
that that I said it out loud.
So you said out loud, I want to peg a man.
Yep.
Yeah. And anyways, our time goes, on whatever. But basically, we'll keep that in our back pocket for the part of the story. But, I think I had said something along the lines of, I want a man's attention. I want a man to look at me in the eyes and give me attention and give me foreplay and aftercare. And I also said, and I do not think that is too much to fucking ask for, even at a sex club, because you know what you want, and I don't care. It could be as extreme as saying I want to fuck some man in the ass, but instead I'm saying I want a man who doesn't ditch me after sex to go find what's next, right? Like no girl I know wants to feel like once the finale is over, the fun is over. Fuck off. That's not a fun night for me. That's a guy who got what he wanted and then took his energy elsewhere. Fuck off. Like that's how I feel. Sometimes you don't care if a guy hangs out with you or not after because it wasn't super like great. But there's times when my feelings would be hurt if a guy, like for example, I had a guy once literally just like go home. Like it was like we had sex and then instead of staying and socializing at all, he like took off. And I thought like without anything. And I thought that was kind of weird. But when a guy's there for a certain reason, he's there for a certain reason, I guess. So anyways, so we were all socializing and then we went and did the event, the Cuckold and Hot Wife theme event. They did a great job putting on the event considering it was such a small crowd. But basically what I did notice when they were asking questions like who is interested in this dynamic or who does identify as a hot wife, things like that. Basically not a lot of people offered up their hands to say that they were either in the lifestyle or not. There was one man who gave an example of his wife who he talked very proudly of her, where they had just opened their marriage to do, some hot wifing, and then she got a boyfriend, and then he's been very happy for her to have this extra thing. At first I'd be kind of pissed if I basically opened up for a sign of swinging and then somebody wants a boyfriend. Like I think that would be a little bit of a different direction than was planned, but this guy seemed very supportive, very, very happy for her. So that was good to hear. So there was some people in it, you know, and very proudly hot wives and things like that. So I'm going to read the description of Hot Wife and Cuckold from the Oasis Aqua Lounge site. It says a hot wife and cuckold play is popular within the lifestyle. It is an erotic power exchange. A hot wife is typically a coupled woman, doesn't have to be married, who is encouraged by her partner to pursue sexual encounters with other individuals. In this dynamic, the partner doing the encouraging takes the power dynamic, consensually, of course. You don't have to be married to be a hot wife. So basically, if I was like dating some guy and I'd be like, no, I want to go and, you know, live this lifestyle. And then that partner, you know, encouraged me to go and have one-off sex. If I saw a cute guy in a gas station, maybe he'd encourage me to flirt. These are things that in the vanilla world, mainstream society sound completely different, like weird, right? Like, why would you want your partner to flirt and make connections? But with this dynamic, there's joy in watching your partner have these experiences and feel fulfilled. You can get version that feeling of joy for someone's pleasure through this experience. So basically, that was I think I read it all. Cuckolding reverses the dynamic. In cuckolding, the woman proclaims that she will be having sex with others or another, and she wants the partner to watch. So there is sometimes consensual humiliation involved. So the difference there would be when I went up to my partner and said, honey, I found a man in the 7-Eleven, the store, and I'm going to take him home and fuck him. And you know, you can watch if you want to, but you know, I'm still going to fuck him without you. That's cuckolding. And there are absolutely people who are into it. Okay. I know at first I was like, I don't understand. I didn't understand a collar and leash. Now I'm getting, you know, I'm not going to say the rest because I realized I'm YouTube, not podcast. Podcast, just so everyone knows, is where I can swear and be a vulgar fucking bitch. And here I have to be like, you know? Anyways, I digress. So basically we were playing the intrusive question game, and then we went and did this hot wife theme event. We did learn amongst the crowd, there wasn't that many people who were that familiar with it. And that has never happened to me at Oasis. Every time there's someone in the room who knows the theme, is part of the theme, has dressed for the theme, whatever. So I found that to be pretty interesting. Anyways, that broke up at the end of the event, and we did a perf tour, which was supposed to be a very platonic, quick perf tour, which is when we go upstairs and see if there's people having sex that we can kind of watch for a bit, and then we come down. So we all went upstairs, and there was not much going on, right?
Because single men aren't allowed up Wednesdays night. So we were gracious enough to ask the gentlemen that were with us. I think there's like 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then we said, come up with a, like, you know, let's go perv. And we brought them upstairs with us. And we told them that we're responsible for them. So if they come up with us and we go back down, they have to come back down.
Yeah, that's right. So there was no extra men floating around up there. It was like, you go up to men you're with kind of thing. Yeah, that's a good contextual thing. Okay, so then we go upstairs and not much is going on. And so we all sit in the red room, which is the orgy room, right?
That's my favorite room, honestly.
Me too. And this is what's really interesting is Ara was beside me and you were beside her, and then these 4 guys, and then there was another girl who was partnered with one of the guys originally, but then they kind of split up in the night to do their own thing. So, but basically, I wanted to just maybe play a social game. Like I didn't know what to do next, but suddenly R says, well, why don't we play spin the bottle? And I like, my eyes got big. I froze like a 14-year-old girl at a party being told she's going to have to kiss a guy that she doesn't like or doesn't know. And I was like, I sat there like in my head, I was thinking, I don't want to play a game where I feel uncomfortable. And I don't know anyone who does, but I'm just not as comfortable to kiss random people as R is, right? So like for me, I was like, part of me wanted to have a little internal talk with R before to see maybe next time we'll do that. Like, what do you want to do? What are you comfortable with? Because I felt a little put on the place. And I felt if I had said no, I would have been the wet blanket kind of thing. And so that's not how I like to give consent, right? So it was one of those things where I obviously had a choice, and I was able to specify at that time that it doesn't mean kissing on the lips or anything crazy. It could mean a fist pump for the guys, remember that? Or it could mean, you know, we choose. We can say kiss our hand, kiss our cheek, kiss our arm. Yeah. And so that's when I decided to say, yes, okay, I'll play. So
Yeah.
that's something to keep in mind at sex clubs. You have to go at the pace of the slowest person in your group, right? And so I really appreciated that everybody was on board with that and everybody respected that. And I saw a lot of fist bumps in the night for those straight men who kept landing on each other.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, so we're hanging out and we're playing this game. You know, the couple that I haven't named on this channel yet, but I'm going to call them the OG couple because they're the couple that I had my very first threesome with. I will be having more videos and stories about them soon, but this was when I got to see them for the first time in a long time, gave them a big hug, and they started to watch and even interact in the Spin the Bottle. So then we had an extra husband and wife, right? So that was kind of fun. We saw a lot of like, you know, smooching on the hand, whatever. What was some of the things that you remember, Amelia?
Okay. So I got to kiss your boob too.
Oh yes, yeah, you did. Yes, you did, and in my lips.
Right?
Remember we kissed too on the lips.
Yeah, we did. I got first base with you.
The orgy room isn't quite the success story that some people would think it is, but for us, it's fantastic. That's true. I had fun. I call your nipples my fidget spinner nipples because they're just like little knobs you want to play with all day. That's what I always think about. So yeah, so we got to do like flirty fun things. I remember at one point I said like you can kiss the inside of my thigh to some people, and like they did that. So it was really fun. And I think that was the point, is, you know, stay at everyone's comfort level. So then I remember one of the ladies, you know, laid down, and I said, okay, why doesn't everybody put their hands on them at one time so that they get the feeling of everybody's hands, arms, legs, not anything crazy, right? And the person was having such a good time. So then R laid down, and then R wasn't getting touched. And then the guys were like, well, what about us? We like to be touched. And I was like, yeah, what about the guys? So then the guys laid down, and like it was a big touching puddle. Like it was just people sensually touching one another. And it was a beautiful sight. And I had stepped out of the red room at this point because I was talking to my friends like a few feet away. And then when I turn around, dicks were in mouths. And I was like with R, right? And I was like, oh, this has transferred into something different. And so I kind of, you know, stayed back a little bit. But at this point, it was a thrill to watch. It was sensual touching with a group of people we became friends with all night turn into an unknown sexual thing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Her and I had sex with some of the guys.
Yeah. And so it started with some oral and then fingering or whatever. And then it turned into sex. And, you know, you swapped guys here and there. They would take turns with all of you. And what's interesting to mention here is two of the guys were viewers of my channel. And that's kind of why they were in with us, because when they came up and said so, I remember one of them was such a lovely gentleman who was so sweet in the locker room. And he came up and he's like, oh, you know, like, it's so nice to meet you. Can I shake your hand? Like, that stuff matters. It means something to me. Basically, the gentleman from the locker room was just so sweet. And then to have him included in the scene, and he knew R because he had watched my channel. And then to see him have sex with R was quite cool. I'm sure that made, and then I let him kiss my nipple, right? So he was so shy and nervous to be around like the unicorn girl. And then I'm like, kiss my nipple. So he had a great night, I think.
Yep.
And then there was another gentleman.
I think so, totally.
Yeah, there's another gentleman, I don't know people's names here, but he also came up and said, you know, thank you. You're the reason I you know, it took some bravery to come here, kind of thing. And so he was also included in the sex. So you guys really did have fun. I know R squirted quite a bit. What about you? Tell us some of the highlights of that scene for you.
So it started like with the whole touching, right? I saw R in the middle and I was like, yo, I want some too. And then the men were like, we want some too. So then it was just like a touching pile that became an oral pile. Then it became a sex pile. And so I had sex with two other gentlemen, and I'm not sure about R. And then it was lovely. And then the funny thing is, like, we just all hung out together the whole night.
Yeah.
You know, we went to the pool after, hung out, talked, joked. So it was a good, fun night.
And then you guys went out and had another round too. Like, you guys fucked a little bit more. We had some attrition into the group, but then it was 2 a.m. and we were like ready to go home, and I wanted food, whatever. And suddenly we go to the pool, and this very nice man comes up to you in the circle, who it must have taken a lot of bravery to do this. Like, I can't tell you how much strength that must have taken for that man.
I would think so.
Because it was in front of people. He didn't ask you privately.
Yeah.
He came up, and what did this man ask you?
So I give him kudos for his bravery. And he was like, excuse me, are you still interested in paying a man tonight? And I was like I was in shock, because I was like, did I just hear, like I just said earlier, and like on your podcast, I said my craziest fantasy is like pegging a man again. And then I was like, gonna call it a night. I looked at you and I looked at R, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yes, let's do this. Yes, I'm interested. You are a beautiful man. Let's fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, can I say?
You can. Yeah, you can. And we all like, you were jumping off the walls after that. You were so happy.
I am still on a high from that.
Yeah.
I know I went out last night and had a good time, but I still can't stop thinking about Wednesday.
Yeah, because you were like really you were like giving it to this guy, right? The whole feeling you were looking for.
I was like, oh, this feels great. And I had a good time.
And so one of the lessons that I remember, even in the heat of the moment, you said to me is, you put that shit out into the universe and it can find you back, right? And I was like, law of attraction. You have to be brave enough to not only know what you want, but ask for it so that it can find you, right? I think we all learned that. We had a fantastic night, a Hot Wife and Cuckold theme event. We ended up having a social group turn into a bit of an orgy, and overall a really feel good night, especially when Miss Amelia could peg a man and fulfill a major fantasy. That is only the second time she has ever done that. I'm sure it's not going to be the last, but thank you to Always Stock Blanche for hosting us for another awesome night. Thanks, Amelia.
Thank you.
If you haven't been listening to my Sex and Swinging with TorontoUnicorn podcast, I guarantee you are missing out. Not only am I completely uncensored on a podcast, meaning I can say all the terrible words I can't say on YouTube or anywhere else, but I can also go in depth on a lot of topics regarding sex and swinging and sex clubs that I just can't cover in depth on YouTube. I hope you find me. I'm on Apple Music, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts.